What's going on, boys? No Guides here. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to go over the best controller settings. I'm going to go over the ones that I use, and I'm also going to show you some visual examples of the new features in case you don't know what they are. But let's just go straight into the videos. You want to go to settings, and then you want to go, of course, to customize controls. Now, competitive master switch, you could just leave this on. It's fine. Don't leave this on off. If you're playing foot champs or rivals or squad battles, you need to leave that on because it's on by default. Now, through pass assistance, you want to leave this on semi. The reason for this is the game gives you some assistance, but you can at least manually aim where you want the pass to be. There is no assisted this year. Do bear that in mind. So leave it on semi. FIFA training keeps on hidden. There's no reason to put this on. If you want to put it on, you can, but if you're new to the game, you can, but just leave it on off. Time finishing. Now, this is an important feature this year. I would recommend leaving this on. The only thing I would say is if you're not used to shooting with time shooting, maybe you consider leaving it off, but it's very important this year, especially when the time shot, the power shot this year, which is one of the most important aspects of FIFA 23, that power shot will definitely be the meta. The next switch indicator. Now, this is an interesting feature that some people love and others hate. Basically, above a player, you have a red indicator, but then you also have a burgundy indicator. And basically, if you press the L1 button, it will switch to this indicator, the burgundy one, straight away. I like to leave it on because that way, when I press the L1 button, you know who you're going to switch to guaranteed every single time. But some people don't actually like that. They get confused. So I would say just leave this on. If you don't like it, then turn it off. Plus pass block assistance, you always want to leave it on. There is actually no reason to leave this on off because you want the game to assist a pass. So let's say, for example, if a pass is getting played, if your player is nearby, let's say between two players, your player will then intercept that ball. So there's no reason to have that off. There's actually no benefit, even on a competitive pro level, to have that on off. Now, auto switching now. I would recommend this by default. Nowadays it's on air balls and loose balls. Do not leave this on automatic. People think by leaving this on automatic the game helps you out, but sometimes the game switches to the wrong player by mistake, and you don't, like, let's say you want to run back with your CDM, the game might switch you to your centre back, which you don't want that. With air balls on loose balls, the game will only switch if the ball is 6 feet or higher in the air, and then the game will switch for you. So when it's like a header or there's a chance for you to win the ball normally above the player's head, then the game will switch for you. So you're fine. Just leave this on air balls and loose balls, and that way you control your CDM without the game switching for you, and that way you don't have to worry about it. Now, auto switching move assistance. Now, this is only if the game has moved and switched for you. I would personally leave this on low for all players. 99% of you, I will leave this on low. Do not put this on high. I think you're better off leaving this on low because sometimes the through ball might go in behind and you want to run that direction as opposed to, let's say, running forward your CDM. You don't want to get caught in behind when you switch players. So leave this on low. That way you have a bit of assistance, but then you can also auto correct it if there's like a ball in behind. Over time, I want you to use none. So if you're new to the game, use low. If you've been playing last year, or you're a seasoned veteran at least, I would say definitely put none on. That way you have no assistance, and that way you can move the players where you want to if the game switches for you. Clearance assistance, there's two. There's classic, when if you clear the ball, it does not take into account your left analog stick, the direction of where it goes. And then you have directional, which it takes into account your left analog stick, but the power is fully assisted. And sometimes you could pass the ball, to the wrong player, and the earliest possible contact point is picked. So I would just normally go for classic. Just keep it safe, get the ball out. Player lock, you want to keep this on. This when you press the L3 and R3 button inwards, and you can select the player and then make a run in behind. This is very, very important this year alongside creative runs. So I'll definitely recommend leaving this on. There's actually no reason to leave this off unless, for example, you like to do step overs or you press it by mistake, but that's a very few number of people. Leave this on. Then we're going to move over to icon switching. Now, while defending, you press the right stick to trigger icon switching, then flick the right analog stick to the corresponding player you want to switch to. It's actually a pretty nifty feature, but sometimes a lot of players, they press the R button or the right stick in by mistake. So I'd recommend definitely leaving this on off. That way you don't go into that mode, and sometimes it can be a visual distraction. If you do want to get better at FIFA 23, I do have a FIFA score series, but just before you skip ahead, what if I told you if you don't get better after 1 month, I'll refund your money? I can say that because I've been running my paid advanced in-depth FIFA score series successfully for many years, and thousands of others have joined already and still stay on. This is for all levels of those that want to improve on FIFA, and you won't find these videos on my YouTube channel. These videos are a progressive systematic learning system that teaches you everything from the core mechanics of FIFA to the meta, so you can get better at FIFA as a whole, not just this game, with examples and explanations that go beyond the scope of YouTube videos. With new videos coming out every single week, these videos also adjust to recent updates and patches so you can stay up to date. So come join thousands of others in a mature audience community for those looking to get better. Patreon.com/nilguides, link is down below in the description. Now when you join, we already have a library of hundreds of videos that are specifically made for both new gen and old gen, with new videos in FIFA 23 getting added every single week. We also have an additional group coaching as well that we started this year due to high demand and high request. And don't forget guys, it's a money back guarantee, so if you don't get better after 1 month, I'll refund your money. That is the Nil Guides guarantee. Anyway, link is down below in the description, patreon.com/nilguides. But anyway, back to the video. Player right stick switching. Now, player rotation first of all is, imagine you have player A, B and C, okay? With player rotation, you flick the right analog stick and basically an indicator goes above their head. Okay, so you flick it once to the right hand side, you flick it right hand side again, you can choose player C. Then once you've chosen the player you want, you press the L1 button, you lock it in, and that will be the player that will be selected. So you're basically flicking the right analog stick to choose whichever player you want and then locking it in at the player that you want. It takes too long, it doesn't work in a realistic sense in a competitive game mode. So I would recommend either using ball relative or player relative, which is the two choices. Now, there's something I want to note to you, and it's something that's very, very important, okay? There's a new feature this year called adaptive, okay? Now, this is basically the longer you hold the right stick, the further player you can choose away. So normally if you flick the right analog stick, you can choose someone close by, but if you hold it longer, you're going to get, as you can see on the screen, you're going to get like a line, and you can see where that right stick is switching to. You can use that, or you can use classic, where you just literally just flick the right analog stick in between the players. Now, one setting that goes in line with this one, so you can choose ball relative or player relative. Now, this is very important. Contrary to belief, people actually knock down ball relative, but for 99% of players, it's the best thing to use. In fact, even I use it. There's only one benefit to using player relative, that is pressing at pro level. I'm talking about really pro level. You can still press at pro level with ball relative, but it's much easier to do it with player relative, you could argue. And that is the only reason. But to be honest, the way they've improved ball relative with adaptive now, I think the difference now has become reduced even less. Now, player relative is the default one by normal. Let's say you have 5 players, for example. If the ball, let's say the right stick switch indicator is above this player's head, you have to flick the right analog stick depending on where the player is, basically. And so if the player is at the bottom right, you have to switch, you flick your right analog stick to the bottom right, let's say towards 5 PM, and that's how you switch that player. Ball relative is my favorite, is because it takes into account where the ball is. So if you've got players nearby, if you want to, for example, switch to this player, you just flick to that hand side. If you want to switch to this player, you just switch to 11 o'clock. So you're switching relative to where the ball is. And normally your eyes are tracking the ball, so I think it's the best method. But also with player relative, people don't know this, but with player relative, sometimes the game might switch to another player by mistake in a close vicinity, whereas ball relative doesn't have that issue. So I'd recommend ball relative, and classic is the one that I use, but I'd recommend ball relative and adaptive for most people. Give it a try. If not, just use the classic player relative. Ground pass assistance, you want to leave this on assisted. There's no reason why you want to put that on manual or anything like that. You will struggle, I'm telling you, with ground pass assisted. Shot assistance. Now, there's a new one which is called semi. If you put this on semi, you increase your shot accuracy by up to 2 times. Now, of course, it's much harder to aim your shot. So if you're good at aiming or you're good at using the power shot, then you can use semi. But I'll be honest, for 99% of players, leave this on assisted. Only use this on semi if you really know how to aim your shots manually. It's only going to apply to a few pro players, and to be honest, I can make a prediction on the pro scene they're going to use semi anyway. It's because the amount of times you'll miss an open goal because of you're going to use assisted. The reason why is the amount of times you can miss an open goal, because although semi is good to aim your shots and get double accuracy, you could also miss absolute sitters. So do bear that in mind. So I'll leave that on assisted. Cross, I would say leaving this on semi, because that way you can use a square button to depict, or to dictate how much power, should I say, is on the ball. So if I try to depict this here, if you've got near post, far post, and In the middle, if you do a little bit of power, it goes short. Mid power goes to the middle, and for a lot of power, it goes far post. So the semi gives you that ability to pick the power, whereas assisted, it just basically goes where the game kind of decides or sees the nearest best player. That's kind of the way that I found it. You can kind of judge it a little bit, but not enough. Low pass systems, they've changed this year with semi. I would say if you're an elite player plus, I would recommend trying semi out. But for the rest of you, I would recommend just leaving this on assisted. Lob through pass, you have to use semi this year. It says leave on assisted. Analog sprint, leave this on off. It might work this year with the new left stick dribbling, which is kind of terrible, to be honest. Like this, for lack of a better word, it's just terrible. But left analog stick dribbling, the analog sprint, think of the R2 button like a gas pedal on your car. And the more you depress that gas pedal, the more power or the faster that player would run up to his maximum sprint speed. So I leave this on off because I always want my player to run at 100% sprint speed. Because some people, they don't push the R2 button or RT button in all the way, and then you might end up, for example, actually only using 50% of the power. So I leave this on off, and I recommend leaving it off for most players. Pass receiver lock, you have late, early animation start, and power up. Now, early is basically turned into animation start, which is the earliest point where you can do it. Then you have the power up stage, which is when you reach full power, or as soon as the pass button is released. And then you have late. I would recommend late because if you want to make a pass, for example, to player A, and let's say your opponent cuts that passing lane out, you can then switch to player B last second with your left analog stick, as long as your pass has not left your foot. So it's better. People say with bad connections, power up and animation start is better, but I don't agree with it. You're better off just leaving it on late. Leave both of these on off. There is no reason to leave these on unless you want just the haptics feedback, but sometimes it's harder actually to press the right analog stick. The R2 button or the RT button. You don't really want the haptic feedback. This is mainly a PS5 feature as opposed to Xbox. Then we go over to the controls. Now, if you're part of my Patreon series, you would see that I use classic controls. So the controls you're seeing here are just old school ISS controls. For those of you, the Pro Evo guys from back in the day, there's a specific reason why I use these because, for example, I don't want to use teammate contain on R1. It's easier to press square. And also there's a feature when you're defending, if you press a tackle button, when you're attacking the tackle button, when you're attacking, should I say, when you have possession of the ball, it's a ground pass. When you're defending, it's actually the tackle button. So why is this important? Is that sometimes the game will force a pass instead of a tackle when there's a good chance you win the ball. So these are small kind of features like this. And also, for example, the shoot button is closer to the right analog stick than the shoot button on default on circle. And that's the reason why I use this, because it's easier to do the fixture. Also with your thumb being like this, naturally being rested, so you can naturally rest your thumb on the square next to the fixture and then press the shoot button after that. See how easy it is as opposed to doing it this way and then independently moving your tip of your thumb on the circle. So that's the reason why I choose that. The only downside to the system is using the actual run button as R1 as opposed to R2, because you don't have analog sprint. But apart from that, there's no real issues there. But for majority of you, classic is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I'll just recommend swapping contain and teammate contain, because contain is probably the most useful button, useless, should I say, button in FIFA 23. In all FIFAs, you should not be using it at all. You should be manually defending, always. And trust me, it's so nerfed now, it's basically pointless. And it's easier for you to press a teammate contain button when it's on X than if it is on R1. But anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this going more in depth, and the control settings where I go even more in depth for each setting, do check out my Patreon, patreon.com/nilguide. You can click on the link here, as you can see on the screen, or link is down below in the description or in the comment section down below. Anyways, thanks for watching. Take it easy, and of course, I'll catch you next time. Peace out.